The human ship drifted at the edge of the forbidden zone, its hull scarred and patched from years of quiet work. Elias Ward sat alone in the cockpit, hands light on the controls, eyes moving between the stars and the warning symbols flashing across his console. Every map in the known galaxy marked this region in red. War had passed through here only days ago. Ships died here. Crews vanished. Sensible pilots stayed far away. Elias was sensible. He should have turned around. Then the distress signal repeated. It was weak, broken, and old by emergency standards. The kind of signal that usually meant nothing remained alive. Automated beacons often kept calling long after their owners were gone. Elias hesitated, jaw tightening. He had ignored signals before. Everyone did. That was how you survived in space. Still, his ship turned toward the source. The wreck came into view slowly, silhouetted against a dying star. It was not a civilian craft. The design was sharp and elegant, made with materials Elias had only seen in history files. Ithari. His breath caught. Ithari ships were rare, and this one bore deep scorch marks and punctures along its spine. Around it floated debris and frozen bodies, evidence of a violent attack. Elia's scanners screamed warnings. Multiple weapon signatures lingered in the area, fading but not gone. Whoever attacked this ship might return. He swallowed and slowed his approach. As he drew closer, the distress signal sharpened. Not automated, manual. Someone was alive. Elias cursed quietly and sealed his helmet. He did not carry weapons beyond a cutter, and an emergency sidearm meant more for tools than fighting. He docked with what remained of the Ithari ship, forcing an airlock seal where the hull had twisted. The moment he stepped inside, the cold hit him. Life support had failed long ago. Lights were dead. The corridor walls were scorched and torn, painted with dark stains that his suit refused to analyze. He moved carefully, guided by the signal. It led him deeper, past shattered doors and collapsed bulkheads, until he reached a chamber that had once been beautiful. At its center lay a single figure. She was tall, even lying broken on the floor. Her skin shimmered faintly, marked with natural patterns that glowed dimly in the dark. Her armor was ceremonial, cracked and burned. One arm lay at an impossible angle. Her breathing was shallow, barely there. Elias froze. He knew enough about the Ithari to understand what he was seeing. The markings, the armor design, the crest at her collar. Royal. His instincts screamed at him to back away. The Ithari were proud, powerful, and ruthless in defense of their own. A human interfering here could be seen as an insult, or worse, an act of manipulation. She coughed, a weak sound that echoed in the chamber. That decided it. Elias knelt beside her and activated his medkit. His suit translated faint biological readings, flashing red warnings. She was dying. Internal damage, blood loss, shock. Human medicine was not designed for her species, but it was all he had. "I'm going to help," he said aloud, though he knew she might not hear him. As he worked, the ship trembled. Alarms howled in his helmet. Multiple contacts dropped out of warp nearby. Hostiles. Elias swore. He sealed the medkit around her torso, pumping stabilizers and sealing wounds as best he could. It was not enough. She needed a medbay. Now, the chamber shook again. Energy weapons tore into the wreck from outside. The attackers were finishing the job. Elias made a decision he would later realize defined the rest of his life. He lifted her. She was heavier than she looked, and his suit strained as he carried her back through the corridors. The ship groaned around him. Hull breaches widened. Debris floated free. Blaster fire punched through the wreck ahead, narrowly missing him. He ran. He burst back into his own ship and slammed the hatch closed. The engines roared to life as targeting alarms locked onto him. Come on," he muttered, pushing power past safe limits. The ship leapt forward just as energy fire tore through the space it had occupied seconds before. His shields flared, nearly failing. He did not slow. Only when he had jumped blind into deep space did Elias finally collapse into his seat, breathing hard. The alien woman lay strapped into his emergency medbay. Machines hummed around her, doing everything they could with limited understanding. Elias removed his helmet and wiped sweat from his face. Only then did he allow himself to think. He had just rescued an Ithari royal from an execution convoy. He had interfered in a matter that likely involved empires and wars beyond human influence. And he had done it without hesitation. Hours passed. The ship drifted in silence. Elias did not sleep. He watched the monitors, afraid that if he looked away, she would die. Finally, the readings shifted. Her eyes opened. They were luminous, sharp, and focused despite her injuries. They locked onto him instantly. Elias raised his hand slowly. "Easy," he said. "You're safe, I think." She tried to sit up and failed, a soft sound escaping her throat. Her gaze never left his face. "You are human," she said, her voice rough but clear. "Yes," Elias answered. "Name's Elias, I'm a salvager." Her expression changed, not fear, not confusion, recognition. "The attackers," she said. "Where are they?" "Gone," Elias replied, "for now." She studied him in silence. The machines beeped steadily, her breathing evened out. "You chose to return," she said. Elias frowned. "Return to the wreck," she clarified, "after scanning it, after knowing who we are." "I didn't know who you were," he said honestly. "Not until I saw you." She seemed to consider that. "Then you knew," she said. "Yes. And you stayed." He shrugged slightly. Someone was alive. For the first time, something like shock crossed her face. "You understand what you have done?" she asked. "I helped," Elias said. "That's it." A faint glow pulsed along the markings on her skin. A cultural display, he realized too late, something significant. "I am Saren," she said, "Queen of the Ithari Dominion." Elias exhaled slowly. "Of course you are." Silence stretched between them. "To touch royal blood," she continued, "to carry it, to shield it with your own life is no small act." "I didn't shield you," Elias said. "I just ran." She watched him closely. "You ran toward danger, not away." That made him uncomfortable. He looked away, checking instruments that did not need checking. "You could have left me," she said softly. "Most would have, even among my own kind." He met her gaze again. "I didn't." Her eyes closed briefly, then opened with renewed intensity. "By Ithari law," she said, "a life saved at such cost binds the savior and the saved." Elias stiffened. "Binds how?" Her voice was steady, but something deep and ancient resonated behind it. "By honor," she said. "By fate, by heart." Elias stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. "I didn't do it for that," he said quickly. "I don't want." "It does not matter why," Saren said. "Only that you did." The ship drifted through the stars, small and fragile against the vast dark. Somewhere behind them, empires would already be moving. Messages would be sent. Fleets would turn. And on a quiet human salvage ship, a single choice had already changed the galaxy forever. The ship continued its slow drift through open space, far from any trade lanes or patrol routes. Elias kept the engines low and the shields active, knowing that if anyone was searching for them, loud movement would only make it easier. He moved carefully around the small medbay, checking readings again and again, even though the machines showed steady improvement. Queen Saren remained awake now. She watched everything. She observed how Elias spoke softly to the ship, how he adjusted systems by hand instead of relying on automation, how he checked on her before eating or resting. These were small things, meaningless by royal standards, yet they confused her more than any threat ever had. "You are afraid," she said at last. Elias looked up from the console. "Of you?" "Of what follows," she replied. He did not deny it. "I rescued someone who turned out to be one of the most powerful figures in the galaxy. People don't usually thank humans for that." Saren shifted slightly, testing her healing strength. Pain flickered across her face, but she did not show weakness beyond that. "They will not thank you," she said. "They will fear you." "That's worse," Elias muttered. She tilted her head. "You do not desire power." "No," he said. I desire quiet work, enough credits to eat, and maybe a ship that doesn't complain when I push it. Her lips curved faintly. You speak as though the universe has not already noticed you. As if summoned by her words, the ship's long-range scanner chirped softly. Elias froze. He turned slowly, heart pounding. A signal pulse had brushed the edge of their detection range. Not a direct scan, a probe. Someone was looking. He powered systems down even further and cut the engines completely. The ship went dark except for emergency lights. In space, silence was not safety, but stillness could be survival. Saren felt the change. They have found us. Not exactly, Elias said. But they're close enough to be curious. She closed her eyes briefly. The ones who attacked my convoy were not simple raiders. Figures, Elias replied. They were hired, she continued, by factions within my own dominion and beyond it. My death would have prevented war. My survival invites it. Elias ran a hand through his hair. No pressure then. You could still leave me, Saren said. Set me adrift in an escape pod, claim ignorance. He turned toward her sharply. No. The word came out stronger than he intended. She studied him again, that same focused attention. Why? Because that would be wrong, Elias said. And because if I do that, I become exactly what everyone expects a human to be. And what is that? She asked. Small, he said. Afraid. Willing to step aside when things get hard. Her markings glowed brighter, responding to something deeper than emotion. You are neither small nor afraid, she said. You are difficult, he snorted. You should meet more humans. The probe signal passed, fading into the void. Elias waited a long time before slowly bringing systems back online. When he did, the first message arrived. It was encrypted, Ithari code. Saren's eyes hardened as she read the transmission. They are demanding my location, she said, and your surrender. Elias leaned back. That was fast. They call you an asset, she added, a variable, something to be controlled or removed. Lovely, Elias said. Any messages from my side? Saren paused. Human space has issued a neutral inquiry. They do not yet understand what has happened. That won't last, Elias said. Humans don't like being confused. Another signal arrived, this one broader, impossible to ignore, a public broadcast. Saren straightened as much as her injuries allowed. They are invoking the right. Elias frowned. You mentioned that before. I still don't like the sound of it. The right of hearts, she said. It is an ancient declaration. When a life debt is claimed publicly, it cannot be denied without consequence. What kind of consequence? Elias asked carefully. Her voice was calm. War, dishonor, execution. Elias stared at her. For me, for both of us, she replied. He exhaled slowly and rubbed his face. I didn't sign up for this. No, Saren said. You stepped into it. The broadcast spread across known space within minutes. Ithari nobles argued. Other species reacted with alarm. A human, unknown and unranked, had become bound by ancient law to a queen who commanded fleets, and the human had not begged, fled, or submitted. Human media caught fire. Analysts argued. Some called Elias a hero. Others called him a fool who would bring destruction down on their species. The human assembly demanded answers. Elias ignored it all. He focused on keeping the ship moving, unpredictable, alive. As days passed, Saren healed faster than expected. Human medicine worked in strange ways on Ithari biology. She began to walk again, slowly at first, then with growing strength. She observed Elias constantly, asking questions about human customs, about why humans valued choice so strongly, about why he never once asked what he would gain. I gain you not dying, Elias said simply. That seemed like enough. She considered that answer for a long time. Eventually, Ithari envoys found them. Not warships, but diplomats, arriving under strict neutrality codes. Elias allowed them to dock only after placing every system on alert. The lead envoy bowed deeply before Saren. Your survival has disrupted many plans, your radiance. Yes, she said, that was the point. The envoy turned to Elias, eyes cold. "You are aware that by our law you now belong to the queen." Elias crossed his arms. "I belong to myself." A ripple of tension passed through the delegation. Saren rose to her full height, standing beside him. "He belongs to no one," she said. "That is why he is worthy." The envoys withdrew, shaken. They had come expecting fear, submission, negotiation. Instead, they encountered a queen who refused to command and a human who refused to kneel. The galaxy watched closely. Soon after, the ultimatum arrived. The trial of worth would be held. Elias would be tested publicly. If he failed, the bond would be dissolved through ritual death. If he succeeded, the bond would become permanent. Elias read the terms twice. "These people are insane." "They are afraid," Saren corrected, "and fear clings to tradition." He looked at her. "Do you want this?" She met his gaze without hesitation. "Yes." "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because you saw me bleeding and did not see a queen," she said. "You saw a life." Silence settled between them. "All right," Elias said at last. "Then I'll face it." Across the stars, fleets began to move. Alliances shifted, old assumptions cracked, and humanity, watching one ordinary man stand where giants feared to stand, began to realize something important. This was not about power. This was about choice. And humans were very good at that. The place of the trial floated above a blue giant star, held together by ancient Ithari engineering and stubborn belief. Massive rings circled a central platform, covered in symbols older than most civilizations. Thousands watched from distant stations and ships, their feeds linked across the galaxy. Elias stood at the center of it all, wearing simple clothing instead of armor. No weapons, no protection, just a thin suit to keep him alive in the artificial atmosphere. He felt very small. Queen Saren stood across from the Ithari Council, her posture proud despite the tension in the air. She was fully healed now, her presence commanding silence wherever she turned. Still, Elias noticed something others did not. Her eyes returned to him again and again, as if checking that he was still there. The High Arbiter stepped forward. Its voice echoed across the platform. "The trial of worth begins," it declared. "The human will prove his right to stand beside the queen. Or he will fail and be unmade by law." Elias swallowed. "Friendly people," he muttered. The first trial began without warning. The platform dissolved beneath his feet. Elias fell. Gravity twisted, then vanished. He landed hard on solid ground inside a massive chamber made of dark crystal. Across from him stood an Ithari warrior, tall and armored, holding a blade that shimmered with energy. "Trial of strength," a voice announced. "Defeat your opponent." The warrior advanced without hesitation. Elias backed away, hands raised. "I don't want to fight you." The warrior attacked. Elias dodged clumsily, barely avoiding a killing blow. He was not trained for this. He had survived space by caution, not combat. The warrior pressed harder, forcing him toward the edge of the chamber. Elias saw an opening. He could grab the warrior's weapon, twist, and strike back. The training files he had skimmed flashed through his mind. Instead, he stepped inside the swing and wrapped his arms around the warrior, locking them both in place. The blade dropped. They struggled. The warrior tried to break free, but Elias held on, using leverage and desperation instead of strength. "I don't want to kill you," Elias said through clenched teeth. The warrior froze. The chamber lights dimmed. "Trial failed," the voice declared. "Human lacks dominance." The floor vanished again. Elias fell back onto the central platform, breathless and bruised. Murmurs spread through the watching crowds. Saren's fists clenched. The second trial began. This time Elias found himself standing before a group of prisoners, Ithari, human, and others. Chains bound them. A device hovered above, humming with lethal energy. "Trial of loyalty," the voice announced. "Choose who lives." Images appeared in the air. One showed Saren wounded and alone. Another showed the prisoners executed if he failed to choose. Elias stared in horror. "Choose," the voice repeated. His heart hammered, his hands shook. "I won't," he said, the device charged. "If you do not choose," the voice warned, "all will perish." Elias stepped forward. "Then take me instead." Silence fell. The device powered down. "Trial failed," the voice declared. "Human rejects hierarchy." Back on the platform, Elias dropped to one knee, exhausted and shaken. He felt the weight of countless eyes on him. He could already imagine the verdict forming. Weak, unworthy, a mistake. The council whispered among themselves. The third trial came swiftly. Elias now stood alone before a mirror-like surface. It shifted, showing moments from his life. Missed chances, times he had run, people he could not save. "Trial of will," the voice said. "Face your truth." The images sharpened. The wrecked Ithari ship, Saren bleeding. His hand hesitating on the controls. "What if you had left?" the voice asked. Elias clenched his jaw. "Then I'd still be alive," he said. The image changed. A peaceful future, credits, a better ship, no enemies. "And alone," the voice added. Elias looked away. "Maybe." The mirror cracked. "Trial inconclusive," the voice declared. "Human lacks certainty." Elias returned to the platform for the third time, barely standing. The crowd was no longer murmuring. They were confused. The High Arbiter stepped forward. "The human has failed all trials," it announced. "By tradition, he is unworthy." Ithari law demanded immediate action. Saren moved. She stepped between Elias and the council, her voice sharp and clear. "No," the Arbiter hesitated. "The trials are flawed," Saren said. "They measure dominance, obedience, and certainty. He has none of these." She turned to the watching galaxy. Instead, he showed restraint, compassion, choice. The council argued loudly now. Some demanded Elias' execution. Others warned of consequences. Elias raised his head slowly. "If I failed," he said, "then let it be my failure. Don't twist it into something else." Saren looked at him. "You do not understand," she said quietly. "You have already changed them." Indeed, the trial mechanisms were behaving strangely. Symbols flickered, systems lagged. The ancient constructs had not been designed for someone like Elias. Then the alarms sounded. At first they were distant, then urgent. External attack warnings flashed across every screen. A hostile fleet dropped out of warp around the trial station. Not Ithari, not human, a third power, weapons charged, shields flared, panic rippled through the observers. The sacred neutrality of the trial had been violated. Elias forced himself to his feet. "This is because of me, isn't it?" "Yes," Saren said, "and because of what you represent." The attacking fleet broadcast a single message across all channels. "The bond must end," the message declared. "Human influence will destabilize the balance. The Queen will submit. The human will be erased." Human ships responded almost instantly. They did not outnumber the attackers. They did not threaten conquest. They formed a line. "This is Elias Ward," a human captain broadcast. "He is under our protection." The galaxy watched as humans stood their ground, not for territory, not for power, but for one person. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. Saren placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do you regret it?" she asked. He looked at the chaos forming around them, at the ships preparing for battle, at the future breaking open. "No," he said, "not for a second." Above them, the first shots of a much larger war were fired. The first shots did not destroy anything important. They were warnings, lines of light crossing empty space near the trial station. Even so, everyone understood what they meant. The sacred rules had broken. From this moment on, only choices mattered. Elias stood beside Saren as the station shook lightly. Emergency shields activated, ancient systems waking from long sleep. Across space, the hostile fleet spread out, confident and cold. They believed fear would end this quickly. They were wrong. Human ships held formation. They were smaller, less advanced, and fewer in number. But they did not move away. They did not retreat. They stayed exactly where they were. "This is not your war," the hostile fleet broadcast. "Leave and you will not be harmed." The human reply was calm. "This is our choice." Elias listened, heart pounding. He had never asked for this. He had never wanted to be important. And yet here it was. Everything balanced on one moment, one decision made in a wrecked ship days ago. Saren turned to the Ithari Council. "You see now," she said, "the trial did not weaken him. It revealed him." Some council members looked shaken. Others looked afraid. A few looked thoughtful. The High Arbiter hesitated. The law exists to serve life," Saren said, "not to strangle it." Outside, weapons fired again. This time, shields flared bright as impacts struck closer. The trial station would not survive a full battle. Elias stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "End the trial," he said. All eyes turned to him. "This isn't about proving me worthy," Elias continued. "It never was. This is about fear. Fear of change, fear of choice." The Arbiter stared at him. "You presume much, human." "Maybe," Elias said, "but look around. The galaxy already changed." Human ships fired not to destroy but to intercept incoming shots aimed at the station. Precision defense, protection. The hostile fleet did not expect that. Confusion rippled through their formation. Saren raised her voice, broadcasting on all channels. "This bond will not be sealed by force," she declared, "nor will it be broken by threat." She turned to Elias, her expression steady and open. "The right of hearts requires one final truth." Elias met her gaze. "What truth?" "Consent," she said, "from both." Silence spread across the feeds. Elias understood then. This was his final test, though no one called it that. Not strength, not loyalty, not will, choice. "I saved you because it was right," he said slowly. "Not because of law, not because of reward." "I know," Saren replied. "I don't belong to you," he continued. "And you don't belong to me." A faint smile touched her face. "Correct." "But," Elias said, taking a breath, "I choose to stand with you if that's what you want too." Her markings flared with brilliant light, visible even through the station walls. "It is," she said. The High Arbiter lowered its head. "By ancient clause," it announced, "a bond chosen freely cannot be denied. The trial is complete." The declaration echoed across the galaxy. The hostile fleet reacted instantly, weapons charging for a final strike. They would not allow this outcome. They never got the chance. Human ships surged forward, not breaking formation, not chasing glory. They absorbed the attack, redirected fire, and held the line. Losses occurred, damage spread, but they did not retreat. Other fleets arrived, not to fight, to watch, allies, rivals, neutral powers. Everyone wanted to see what humans would do next. Elias felt the station stabilize as Saren's guards secured control. The Ithari Council, faced with public choice and public consent, withdrew their objections. Law bent, not broken. The hostile fleet, isolated and outnumbered by attention alone, pulled back. Their threat had failed. When silence finally returned, it felt unreal. The galaxy exhaled. Days later, the ceremony was held, not on a throne world, not in a palace, but on a shared station orbiting a calm star. No armies, no threats, just witnesses. Elias wore the same simple clothing. Saren wore royal symbols, but fewer than tradition demanded. They stood side by side, equal height, equal voice. The declaration was short: two beings, two species, one choice. There was no demand, no command, only agreement. Humanity watched as one of their own stood without kneeling and without conquering. The Ithari watched as their queen bound herself not through dominance but trust. Other species watched and felt something uncomfortable shift inside them. Afterward, Elias returned to his ship. For a moment, he wondered if everything would feel different. It didn't. The ship still rattled, the controls still stuck, space was still vast and dangerous. Saren joined him in the cockpit, studying the familiar human clutter. "You live very simply," she said. He smiled. "It keeps things clear." She looked at him. "You understand this changes everything." "For the galaxy?" he asked. "For us," she replied. Elias nodded. "We'll figure it out." That answer, simple and honest, felt right. Messages continued to arrive from across space, some hostile, some hopeful, many uncertain. But one thing was clear: humans were no longer ignored. They were not feared because of power or weapons. They were respected because when given the chance to walk away, they chose to stay. And the galaxy, whether it liked it or not, would never be the same again. A human rescued the alien queen. Now she demands his heart and marriage. HFY Stories.